The siege of Cirith Nargil. There was no dawn in Cirith Nargil. The high pass lay buried between the jagged bones of the Efelduath Mountains, cold, wind-bitten and forgotten. For decades, Gondor had manned the outpost atop its cliffs with only a dozen men at a time. It was a formality, a shadowed relic of a war no one believed would return, until the drums came. Captain Halros stood at the edge of the watchtower, cloak snapping in the wind. Below, thick fog blanketed the valley like spilled milk. But within the fog, they moved. Dark shapes, dozens, hundreds, not the squealing goblins of old. These were taller, black-armored, disciplined. They bore no banners, no torchlight, only silence. He turned to his second, a boy no older than 25, named Renil. The lad had never seen war. He thought bravery was about speeches and swords raised to the sky. Halros handed him a helmet instead. "Put it on," he said. Renil stared at the horn of warning. "Should we sound it?" Halros looked back over the wall. The fog had reached. The stairs. "No, that horn's for help. There's no one left to hear it." Inside the stone fortress, 10 men prepared what they could. Barrels were rolled into place. Arrows were stacked. Fire oil was stirred. There was no shouting, no prayers, just the rhythm of readiness. The sound of men who knew they might not outlive the sunset, and had already made peace with that. Then the wind died, and the fog spoke. Not in words, but in the clink of boots on stone, in the grind of steel, in the steady drumbeat of approaching death. Halros stepped onto the top wall as a dozen black-armored Uruk-hai broke through the fog. They didn't charge. They assembled. Shields lifted, spears raised, in perfect formation. Behind them, more shapes marched into view. One of them, cloaked in furs and black leather, stepped forward and slammed a pike into the stone. He had no helm, just a face covered in deep scars and a single white handprint across his cheek. Halros spat over the side. "You're not in Isengard anymore," he muttered. The orc looked up and smiled. The siege began with fire. Rocks slung by crude trebuchets slammed into the side walls, cracking stone and collapsing part of the south stairwell. A flaming pot of pitch struck the roof of the eastern chamber, the mess hall. Smoke poured from the slit windows. The men didn't run. They shifted. By nightfall, the orcs had breached the outer wall. The courtyard became a killing pit. 2 Gondorian spearmen fell before the others forced the Uruks back. Halros led the charge, blade notched and blackened, his shoulder bleeding from a thrown hatchet. Renil fought beside him, no longer looking like a boy. "Back to the tower," Halros ordered. "We collapse the stair behind." Midnight. 6 Gondorians remained, backs to the wall of the inner keep. The fortress groaned with each strike. Orcs climbed the crumbled stones like spiders. Halros stood at the front, breathing hard. His blade had snapped in half. Renil, crouched behind him, looked too. "The horn again," sounded, Halros said. "But you said—" "I know what I said." Renil lifted the horn and blew. The sound cut through the night like a dying wind. Echoes bounced off dead stone. No reply came. But it didn't matter. Halros turned to the men. "This isn't for rescue. This is for memory. Let Gondor remember." Who held the gate? The final breach came like a flood. Orcs stormed through the rubble, howling, blades raised. One by one the defenders fell. Spears snapped, shields broke. Blood sprayed against stone older than kings. Halros struck down the lead Uruk with the hornspike still in his chest. Renil fell beside him, smiling through bloodied teeth, and Halros stood alone, eyes blazing, back straight, until even the drums stopped. At sunrise, the pass was silent. The fog receded, revealing the ruined outpost. But from the highest wall, wind still whispered through the broken horn, a memory caught in stone, and from far to the west, in Minas Tirith, a scribe would later write, "Cirith Nargil has fallen, but it did not surrender."